Welcome back. Happy New Year. I hope that you've actually had a chance to take your tree down. You can see mine's still up because I'm lazy. But either way, Happy New Year. Our next guest, the first guest of 2022, feels so weird saying 2022, is another Phish fan from the Oklahoma flavor. Was also at my first show. And really is one of the people that was at ground zero whenever I was getting into Phish. Learned a lot about Phish from this gentleman right here, and this is Blake Solley. Welcome, Blake Solley, to the podcast, everyone.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. We were we were talking before we started recording about us being in our 30s now, cutting back on coffee and other vices, and it's just so weird. And it's funny because we're sitting here thinking like we're old in our 30s, but there's going to be people listening to this that's in their 40s and their 50s, and I'm like, shut up, you guys are young.
Yeah.
We're at the first stage.
Your oldest listener.
God, he's not that much older than us, is he?
He's like 3 or 4 years older, but I still
Yeah.
It's like an ongoing joke.
Grandpa of the group. Oh, that's another thing. We've had a group text going, and it was going before I even got added to it.
It's gone through several different iterations.
Different phases, yeah. But did it start out as a Phish-based text thread? Because that's kind of what the core of it is now. Or I guess that's the core that has us all in there. We talk about Phish.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Tyler was in it. I think it was me, Tyler, Leonard, maybe Jackson too. But
Adair or Lucas?
Lucas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tyler. For those of you listening, if you've been keeping up with the podcast, Tyler from episode 1, he's kind of the one that for a long time would keep it alive. I remember waking up. Just like waking up on a random day and having like 170 missed texts, and most of them were from Tyler. So like,
yeah, 164 of them were Tyler.
Like, let's play a game. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. Sometimes it get annoying, and then I learned how to turn the notifications off. And
dude, that is a game changer.
Read it at my leisure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm in outside of ours, and I'm sure you are too. I'm in like 7, 8, probably 10 different group chats, and I have them all on Do Not Disturb, because if it gets on a roll and going, it's just like your phone dies just from vibrating so much.
Yeah,
it's too much. Sure.
Yeah, and it can get annoying, especially with the old age thing, like we were talking about. The older I get, the more annoyed I get with my phone.
Yeah, like pulling it back, like what's this here? Using the one finger swipe and shit. How do I do this again? How do I turn this off? Enough about us being old. Let's get into Phish. I kind of mentioned earlier whenever I was introducing you, you're one of the people that was kind of at ground zero whenever I was not learning about, I guess, learning about Phish, because, whenever everyone has a different path, it's like whether you find them on LimeWire or, you have someone older introduce you to them. So I'd kind of known about the band and, done a little bit of listening here and there. But then those years in Edmond, it was in Edmond whenever we were all, starting out college and stuff. That's kind of whenever I was like really getting those deep cuts, if you will, or like those like really good shows. And a lot of those came from like you and Tyler, Leonard. So what, from your memory, what was the jumping off point that got you into Phish?
It's kind of a long, convoluted story, but I guess that's why we're here. When I was in middle school, I was 12, 13 years old, and like the girls that I kind of like dated and stuff like that, they all had older brothers, and they all like were duck hunters. That's how I got into duck hunting and stuff. But I thought they were like the coolest dudes ever, and they were all into the Grateful Dead. And every time we would go duck hunting, they'd play the Grateful Dead, and I was like, I gotta learn to like this, because this is what the cool dudes do, So I started listening to the Dead, downloading off, not LimeWire, but Kaza or
Oh
Kazaa.
yeah,
I don't know if you're,
Kaza.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
with two A's.
yeah, two A's. And I got really into it. And at that age, 12 years old, listening to heady ass Grateful Dead, like everyone thought I was like super weird for liking that stuff. But I just, it just, my love continued to grow for it. And, and then it just kind of evolved into, well, what's some other music kind of like this or whatever. And I'd heard about Phish and didn't really know, any songs or anything. I think on Kaza it was that Gin and Juice, the Gourd song, but it was always labeled as Phish.
Yeah.
So for a good while, I thought that was Phish. So
Same.
it's
I
like,
think
well, I guess I'm
everybody.
supposed to like this next. So, yeah,
It got
and
everybody.
and then just through word of mouth and mutual friends and stuff, someone had told me about Riggs, Tyler, and they were like, "You should talk to him. He knows about Phish, all that, blah blah blah." And I got his number somehow and called him. And of course, Tyler, especially in those days, someone calls him and is like, "Hey, I want to listen to Phish." He's like at your doorstep, like, "Look, get in the car, let's go,"
Yeah.
And that it just kind of, that's how our friendship started too, which is really cool. It's
Hmm.
really unique, I guess. And yeah, that's how I got into Phish. But that was a long time ago, way before 3.0 started or anything. So
Yeah.
um, I just remember Tyler would come pick me up and we would just sit in his car for literally hours and just listen to shows.
Just
And
wearing the
like,
seats out, just like.
yeah, yeah. I think both of his seats in his little Volkswagen Golf were like kind of wobbly from just like being able to. But
Yeah.
yeah, we would just listen to shows and pause it here and there and talk about something. It was really cool, but it was only cool to us. Everyone else thought we were stupid, like weird Phish kids.
Yeah.
But but yeah, that's how it started. And it just, and you know how I am, like if I get into something, I get kind of obsessive about it.
Oh
And
sure, I'm the same way.
I got, yeah, and so I got super nerdy about it. And that's when I learned about torrents. And at that time, I think it was right after I graduated, and I lived with a crazy ex-girlfriend. But Tyler would always come over and we would, again, I was 18, 19 years old, still going out to the car, just listening to music for Phish, just Phish, not
Yeah.
music, Phish for hours on end. And yeah, that's just kind of how it evolved.
Yeah,
Super
it's
nerdy, still super nerdy about it 15 years later.
yeah, it's
I
like one
love
of
it.
those things to where like if it hooks you, like there's no really going back. Like there's either people that have like listened to Fish and been like, "Oh yeah, I know about them. It's kind of weird," and they never do it. But if you do jump on, if you get on the train, if you get on the train, then there's no going back.
Mhm.
I've never met just like a halfway Fish fan, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. It's either you're on or you're off. But it's funny. It's funny also because you said multiple times like you go out to the car because it's just you and Tyler that like it, and so you're listening by yourself. And then once you start going to shows and meeting other people, you're like, well, I'm not the only person. It's not just our little friend group. There's thousands, millions of people
Yeah.
that are also like this. So when was your first jump into seeing them live? Because you said you got
Uh,
into them whenever it was before 3.0. So obviously, like your first shows were in 3.0, just like mine. When was your first show, and how did it come to be?
Knoxville, 2009, at the Tennessee Volunteers basketball stadium, which I thought was really cool.
Mm,
Huge sports fan too. And Kyle Leonard was actually there too. He rode with us. That was the first time I met Leonard and Jackson Adair. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd been so into him before that, and I was like, if they ever, when I first got into him, it seemed like they were never going to get back together. They were a broken up band. This is a thing of the past. I knew about Trey's problems or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and so when it finally, came to be, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to just see as many shows as possible. And at that time, I had a really like lenient job, just waiting tables. My boss was super cool. Like basically, if he had me on schedule for the next week or so, I could just be like, hey, you need to take me off the schedule. I'm going on Phish tour. He'd be like, all right, roll his eyes, be like, okay,
Yeah.
And so when those Hampton shows got announced, I wanted to go so bad, but tickets were impossible to find. I
Yeah.
think I'm not going to say what Tyler and those guys paid for their tickets, but it was more money than I even ever had, at that time.
Leonard kind of
And
touched on it whenever we had him on here.
yeah,
But yeah, it's
and
a price ticket for sure.
yeah, and even though I wasn't at those shows, I still remember those nights very vividly because I lived in Stillwater at the time, and I was partying college kid, and I was actually at a house party the first night of Hampton, but Tyler was texting me every song as they started and like giving me notes, footnotes, everything, typical Tyler style, which that's why I love the guy. And I was at a house party, but I had a piece of paper and a pen. And as he would text me the songs, I was writing them down on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And still, yeah.
Do it
I love that I'm rehashing this and reliving this because it's making me feel so happy right now.
Yeah, and like doing the math in between the texts too. So like you're like, okay, this song was 10 minutes long, or this one was 4.
Yeah. But sometimes, and I had other things going on. Like I said, I was partying and stuff, and I remember like when I'd go to the bathroom, I would stop and read the times of the text messages and be like, okay, that was 15 minutes, and write it down.
Yeah.
And then I remember like by the end of that weekend, I had front and back that paper, every set list, times, like everything, like super nerdy, but I love it. I love this band.
Yeah, I know. So going from like the opening shows, you missed the Hampton, as did I, because it's kind of and probably because of we're so similar in age. We both get into the band whenever, or learn about the band whenever they're not even really a band anymore. And then 09, they're hitting the shows again, and you're like, okay, because I had the same kind of thing as you. I didn't really hit as much of the tour because just once again being a broke college kid, didn't really have the finances to do it. But I launched in for the New Year's show because I was like, what a great way to kick this journey off. So you started out your first shows in Knoxville 09. How many shows in 09 did you hit? Did you kind of do what Tyler did and just like go super hard that first year, or what did that opening year look like for you?
09, I actually hit more shows in 09 than any other year since. And, but it was like kind of a show by show thing. I didn't have it mapped out. I didn't have my tickets bought ahead of time. Like I remember we were on lot in Knoxville, and, we were walking through Shakedown, and somebody was selling Alpine tickets. And I looked at Tyler and I was like, you want to buy them? You want to go? Cause it was like a week and a half later, I think that was June. I don't know. But the shows were, a week and a half after the Knoxville shows. I was like, you want to buy those tickets? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And we bought those, and I was
with
like,
no plan.
No plan, no nothing. We just bought the tickets because if we buy the tickets, we're going to be obligated to go. So
right, yeah.
We bought the tickets, and then I was like, there's one night at Deer Creek before these two shows. Let's find those tickets too. We went and we found those tickets like 10 minutes later.
Oh god.
And yeah, and then it was just from there. That's how it went. Every show, we would go to the next show, find tickets, kind of map it out and see how it worked out. Yeah, let's buy those. We get those, and it was just 2 shows at a time until Miami.
Dude, so is this whenever you're finding these tickets to the next show at the previous show? Is there enough gap to where you guys are coming back home and like charging or like getting extra clothes and shit? Or are you guys just like, okay, we got these tickets, we're going here. We got these tickets, we're going here. Is it just like a continuous road trip?
Yeah, no, we had, like I said, a week and a half between, we were able to come home. I was able to go wait tables and get some extra cash, and kind of recharge and then hit the road again. And like I said, at that time, I had a really lenient job or whatever. So I was able to just kind of come and go as I please, which was awesome. But at the same time, I didn't realize like that's not adulthood, like people aren't really able to do this. Like I didn't realize. So I remember I would always talk shit to Kyle and be like, because he was older and he had seen shows in 2.0, and I was like, I'm going to surpass you one day. Like this is all I'm going to do is go see shows. And he's like, He's like, yeah, no, you're gonna have to be a grown up one day. You're not gonna keep living like this. You know, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Didn't listen to him. Of course, by like 2012, it really winded down because I wasn't able to do it.
But it's cool that you got to in that moment, you know, hit that perfect window to where you can be irresponsible. It's like we were saying, like before we started, you know, saying goodbye to our 20s because that's the excuse, you know, for being irresponsible and just like your excuse for everything. Oh, they're in their 20s. They're a kid, you know?
Yeah.
So it's cool that you hit that stride in that time because when else are you going to be able to do that unless you're like a trust fund kid, you know?
Oh yeah, it was perfect timing. I was really lucky at the time, and I remember, and you know, I lived at home. I think my car was paid for. That Volvo that we rode to Miami in, that car was paid for. I lived at home, didn't have any bills or anything. So, but I remember also my mom would get really mad when I would take off work and go see Phish because she was like, "You need to be saving your money," you know, blah 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 blah, and it got to a point to where, you know, again, being young, I would, you know, lie to my mom or, you know, omit things, not tell her. And, you know, the first handful of shows, you know, it was like, yeah, sorry, mom, I'm going, you know, and she'd kind of give me some shit, but then forget about it. But then it got to where I wouldn't even tell her and I'd just hit the road. And, you know, moms, you know, moms know everything.
Sure.
You know, they know when you're lying, they know when you're keeping something from them. And I remember this very vividly. We were on our way to, I don't remember where we were going. I don't remember what show it was. I saw a lot of shows that year. But we were driving through St. Louis, and that was one of the shows, or that was one of the trips I didn't tell my mom about. And she called me, and I can always, you know your mom, you know, like you can always tell what she's fishing for or if she knows something. She called me, and I answered, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, just driving with some friends, you know." And she was like, "Where are you at?" And I could just hear it in her voice. She was waiting for me to lie to her.
Yeah.
And of course, I was like, St. Louis. I'm on my way to somewhere way up north, you know. And I remember it kind of got to that point where I wouldn't tell her. And then it got to where she kind of started to not care because she was like, he's going to do it. This is what he wants to do. You know, let him do it. He'll grow up one day, you know. So I just remember by the time Miami rolled around, she was like, okay, have fun, be safe, you know, like call me when you get there, you know.
Dude, and those Miami shows, those were my first shows. And those were such a, like, what a great, I'm so grateful that those were my first shows because it was such like just 4 days of just like absolute madness.
That's a hell of a first run. Yeah.
And in
it's
Miami.
Funny it's funny because, you know, I was going through old pictures or whatever this morning, actually, and came across some of those Miami pictures, which I'll send them to you privately because some of them I don't know if I want to broadcast, you know, but
yeah. And I was showing Leonard and Knox whenever she was on. I had the little disposable camera that I took
these
there.
Pictures were from. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I still have them. They're on my bookshelf somewhere. I should have dug them out again. But they're just like they're funny, man. Like it's like the eye of a 19-year-old at his first Phish show. So there's like pictures of me and Jackson with like some random girl. And I was like looking through them. I was like, who is this? I don't know what this is.
I'm looking at one right now. That some random girl with Tyler and you and Tyler. Like,
yeah, it's funny, man. But dude, during that, I saw a lot of, as you do, saw a lot of weird stuff, and I don't know who I was walking around the lot with, or if it was all of us. But maybe you'll remember this. My first interaction with the nitrous people, like the nitrous mafia. So these are my first shows. This is the first time I'm ever hearing about it. So I don't do any because I'm like, I don't know what this is. And, but I'm watching, like you hear the hisses, and like we're like walking and we're within, and I'm like, so they're just filling up balloons and like I'm like, what is it? And they're like, oh, it's laughing. You guys are like, oh, it's laughing gas, like what you get at the dentist. I'm like, that's weird. And then, dude, as we're walking up, I don't know if you were with me, like I said, or if it was just Jackson or just Tyler or whoever, but dude, we're about 50 yards away, and these cops come up behind the dude that's running the tank, grab him by his ankles, and pull his feet out from under him, slams the ground, and I'm like, okay, let's go this way. Cause dude, then it was just like a swarm. Like people were like fighting and stuff. I was like, oh my God, is this just a Miami thing or is this a Phish thing? Like, this is crazy. I just remember being like, okay, there can be like a dark side to this. Like, so I'm going to keep my head on a swivel, because whenever you first time on Shakedown, you're like around all these hippies and everything, and you're like, oh, okay, this is cool. It's just like a hippie flea market type thing. Everybody's, having fun and like good vibes and stuff. And then I see that
Nobody's
and I'm like,
doing anything wrong here. Yeah.
yeah. So that I'm like, ooh, okay.
Well, it's funny because now that you mention it, I do remember like you never partook in the nitrous and stuff like that. So I don't feel as bad showing this to you, but it's funny because I saw that this morning and now we're talking about it. But
oh yeah, I have that same one. That same one, yeah.
Such a great picture. I love it. I love it.
It's funny. And I was showing, as I was going through those to show, the one of on Leonard's episode and then on Knox's episode, my girlfriend, she's looking through them with me. She's like, why do you guys have balloons? And then I was telling her about it. I was like, yeah, they fill them up with like the laughing gas you get and you suck on them and it just makes you lightheaded for a little.
Such a waste of money.
But... yeah, dude. But think about like, and I've always wondered, I'm like, where are they getting these? Is it just like they have like a friend that they went to school with that's like a dentist now and he just like hooks them up? I'm like, where are you guys getting these tanks from?
I know. I still don't know the answer to that, really. Like, I have a friend of mine, his dad's a dentist, and we used to joke. We never actually like thought about doing this. We were like, we could probably slip him like $100 bill to give us like the key to his dad's office and become part of the nitrous mafia. Like,
don't say his name.
Yeah, no. And of course that was purely joking. We would never do that.
Yeah, you're gonna get that dude audited or some shit.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the fun part, talking favorite jams. So I like to keep it narrow, and this makes it hard because you got to use your little brain there. If you had to pick a favorite jam of all time, like you can only listen, there's a genie and he says, okay, now if you ever want to listen to Phish again, this is the only jam that you can listen to. Nothing else exists. What are you picking?
I knew you were going to ask this question, but having to narrow it down, which I also think you may already know what I'm about to say, but
there's 4 or 5 in my head floating around what I think you're going to say.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to go with Halloween '94 Reba. You knew that was coming. I mean, I still text the group, reminding you guys to go and listen to that again.
Yeah,
but
it's a great one. Well, I mean, as far as Reba goes, I mean, it's a very popular opinion that it's the best Reba that's ever been played. So I
cried to that Reba before,
dude.
Sitting in the car.
My first time to cry to Phish, I remember it so vividly. And I was in my car, and it was to a Reba, but it wasn't the Halloween Reba. It was the Lowell
95.
Yeah, I had Dave on here, and I was talking about this Reba too, and he was like, that's not how you say it. He was teaching me a lot of words, actually, that I've been saying wrong. He was telling me about Worcestershire sauce and Worcester. It's not Worcester. Lao. I can't remember, dude. My brain is so... Lao. But either way, that 5/16/95 Reba, I was driving down, or I was going up. I was on I-35 heading back to Edmond, and I was on a burnt CD. And it just, whenever it gets into that like super blissful, like emotional part, I was just like, dude, I couldn't stop it. It was, I remember texting the group about it, and it was either you or Tyler, and you're like, that one's overrated. I was like, dude, I just cried to this one.
Totally crushing your dreams there. Yeah, no, that was me because I remember it too. I don't remember saying it was overrated, but then in those days I could picture myself saying something like that. It's definitely not overrated. It's a top 5 version, maybe top 3.
It's so good.
But that sticks out to me. It was me. I remember you saying that, and I remember me telling you, no, this is the better. You need to listen to this Reba. It's the best one.
I was like, okay, I just cried to this one. But dude, yeah, the Halloween '94 Reba, I mean, I think Leonard said the same thing whenever I asked him. That's such a hard, like, it's top 5, not just Rebas, but like all-time jams.
It's arguably not just Phish or any category, it's probably my favorite piece of music ever.
Yeah.
Like as a whole, like it's so flawless. Not only is it flawless, like there's no flubs, there's Trey doesn't miss a note or anything. It's just a perfect jam too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the best composed part too.
Yeah.
Like like I said, no flubs. It's flawless. It's on point with the studio version,
Yeah.
where they can go in and do 100 takes of it, But this was, I'm getting emotional and kind of like almost tearing up, like talking about it, because I haven't been able to talk about it in years, because
right.
we all know the jam. We've all talked about it 100 times. I don't get to talk about it with anybody anymore,
Right.
So rehashing it, like, it's giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, and it's like,
I love that.
We've all heard it so many times. Like you can just, like, I hear it in the background, like as we're talking about it. Like I can hear, like, it's one of those that, and you too, like you can memorize it note for note. Like I can tell you every part of it. You could probably turn it on right now in a random spot, and I could be like, oh yeah, that was at 10:42 or whatever, whatever the marker is. And you were saying like is perfectly executed, no flubs, but also there's no filler in there either. Like it's like they're on a mission, and you said it earlier, like they had rehearsed it 100 times because there's no like, noodling to get to this point, or, waiting, to see to get to this point. It's so like turnkey. It is a,
you're absolutely right.
Perfect
I mean,
jam.
it's yeah, I love it. So yeah, that's my short answer to your question about it. Desert Island, one jam. That's it. And I had some others kind of prepared or whatever for a longer answer, but in short, that's my answer.
That's the one.
100%.
Okay, now that we did the hard part, let's open it up to top 5.
Oof. Obviously the Reba.
Or we'll call it the Mount Rushmore, just to.
Well, I know the second one, I know without a doubt, is the Providence '94 Bowie, which Dave was at that show. I used to marvel at him. Oh my God, you were there! You're the coolest dude ever.
Yeah.
That's definitely on there. That's 1 and 2. As far as other jams, I don't want to say one, and then when we finish, I'm like, man, I kind of wish
Be texting me.
Yeah.
Can we be recorded?
Yeah. Or can you dub this over, like what I was saying? And another one I would probably say, which would probably be a strange answer even to me, if I would past me would have heard me say this now, is the Boise Bag, Boise '99, because that's pretty spacey and repetitive and like not too listener friendly. It's not listener friendly at all, which the Providence Bowie isn't at all either.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, over the years that's become one of my favorites. And because I used to be, as much as I love Phish, I was at one point, especially early on, I kind of hated and shit on '99 and 2000. Kind of just like, those were Phish's down years. It was all spacey, repetitive, not too cohesive or whatever. In hindsight, I was wrong about '99. At least '99 is one of my favorite years.
Oh yeah, and Trey's tone in '99, unmatched.
Yeah, even when I hated on those years, though, I still knew Trey's tone. That's his best tone ever by far.
Yeah,
he could be playing absolute dog shit, but that tone is it's butter. Yeah. It actually, and I'm not a crazy guitar player, but I've gotten nerdy about that stuff, and it actually like it's pretty expensive to get that tone. There's no shortcuts to that tone. No. Like you've got to have expensive amps and stuff like that. Like it's pretty crazy. Whenever I really looked into it. Anyway. New Year's '95 mics, that would have to be on there too. What Tyler will tell you, that might be Tyler's favorite jam of all time, or one of them.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Yeah. The Bangor Tweezer from a live one. That might be my favorite tweezer. It's a great all timer, but probably wouldn't be a lot of people's favorite. Everyone talks about Bozeman and stuff like that, but I like Bangor better than Bozeman.
But with tweezers, like there's so many, like, because it's such a jam vehicle, Like there's so many to pick from. I mean, you can't really be like, it's not like the Reba, for example. Like there's so many great tweezers to where a top 5, if you're just talking about that song, is nearly impossible.
No, you're right. Cause I knew you were going to ask about favorite jams or whatnot. So I kind of the other night started writing down some stuff, cause some of these jams I haven't listened to in a while and would forget about something. So I'd be like, I wanted to write stuff down to make sure I wasn't, leaving something out, going through my Phish catalog. And before I knew it, I had about 13 or 14 tweezers written down. And I was like, yeah, this is impossible. But yeah, Bangor, yeah. And one that it gets talked about a lot, but also isn't mentioned in the all-time greats is Bomb Factory 94 Dallas.
Oh, dude, I would put that in all-time category
that's
for
one of
sure.
My favorites too. Which, that's a pretty, and that set in particular is kind of strange because everybody, in the Phish world, everyone knows about that set. They know how great it is, but they still don't talk about it a lot. And I think it's great. And the whole set, they go in and out of tweezer, but that's a great set.
It is.
I feel like it doesn't get the love that it deserves.
And Dave, you'll get the love on it from Dave, because I don't know if you listened to that full episode, but Dave was talking about it, and he was obviously like, he's a vet, if you will, and he was talking about how he got that tape from a guy at a show, and it was like, because this was pre, internet where you just hop on after the show and download it, scan your code or whatever. So he got it on tape. And he said it was like in his car for like 5 years, and that's all he listened to. And I was like, I don't blame you, man, especially in those days to where it would be so hard. Like, I have so much respect for like the OG Phish fans who've been there from the beginning, because now it's like after they play a show, I'm just itching.
Within
like
an hour,
pull up my app, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. I'm gonna check this out. But back then, you had to like go on the Oregon Trail and like find a person wearing a shirt. And it's like, hey, you got any tapes?
You had to ride your horse 15 miles in the snow to get a tape from your buddy.
Yeah,
but it's funny because it kind of circles back around to our age thing. Like when I first got into Phish, there was, you couldn't just hop on and stream either. Of course, you could burn CDs, and it's funny because, again, talking about the age and how obsessive I get about things, I would download shows off of eTree and convert them to MP3, keep the FLAC, of course, but convert them to MP3 so I could burn them to a CD. And I would just do that nonstop. Even at again, in college at house parties, I'd have a laptop in the corner going, downloading shows, while I'm with my friends and partying and stuff like that. And I would buy those 100 stack of blank CDs, the tall spindles.
On the spindle, yeah.
Yeah, like the tall ones. And I still have them somewhere, but I have 9 or 10 full spindles of burnt shows. And I remember at one point I drove a Nissan Xterra, but it didn't have a CD player. So I had one of the tapes with the aux cord, and I had a CD Walkman that I'd plug it into, and I would just take a CD off that spindle and listen to it in the car. But it's funny because, you see all these old heads and they, the boxes of tapes, like we were talking about. But in my era, in the early days, it was spindles of CDs.
I did the same thing, man. I still have my booklet of CDs, and it's funny to see like some of the mixes, or like writing out the jams. If it's not a full show, it's like, oh, it's this Reba, it's this tweezer, it's this, whatever I downloaded off of, Kazaa or LimeWire, like you were saying earlier. It's funny. And it's like, I've kind of grown attached to them. Like,
that's why I still have them, and I still go look at them and look through them.
And it's so funny because now you can literally get on the internet and listen to any show that you want with a click of a button. It's going to be an audience recording or whatever if there's not a soundboard. But something about having those CDs that like you burned yourself, it's like, it's almost sentimental. It's like, I could throw these away and still have these shows. They're on my phone, but you don't want to get rid of them. It's like throwing away like a record or something. It's weird.
Oh yeah, I'm probably gonna go dig through them as soon as we get done talking here. I'm gonna go look through them again.
Yeah,
but,
and see what all you have, dude. Oh, and I got to share this with you because I remember whenever I was in my phase of downloading, I'm like learning about all this stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I need a hard drive. So I was talking to you about, like what kind of hard drive do I need, how much, and this and that. And I wound up getting a Western Digital, and it was a terabyte, which, I mean, it's a decent amount, but it's like not going to hold everything that I need. And I pulled it out yesterday, or not yesterday, but this week. And I was like, I'm just going to see like what I have on here, kind of like reminiscing, digging through, and it's toast. It doesn't work. It's gone. And I'm like,
funny.
Damn.
That's fun. It's not funny, but it's funny you mentioned that because I wanted this to get brought up organically at some point, but I'm cursed when it comes to external hard drives. I've gone through literally a dozen of them. Something would happen. I think I had like several 2 terabytes, and it had every Dead show and every Phish show in circulation, literally every single one. And at one point, one of the times, the hard drives, I downloaded all those shows myself. It was like almost 2 years worth of work.
It's a lot of work.
And then by the third time of having to get all those shows again, by then I knew somebody, I could just mail them a hard drive and they'd fill it up and send it back to me. But I have the worst luck with them. Like I said, I'm cursed. They would either just stop working, or like somebody would knock it off the desk and it hit the ground. It would stop working. 3 months ago, someone broke into my car and stole my laptop and everything, and it had hard drives in there. It was like the 5th round of all the Dead and Phish shows I'd gotten. So now at this point, I'm like, God damn it. Like, I guess I'm just going to stream shows, because I can't, or listen to my CDs because I can't, can't get hard drives anymore. Dude, I just went and bought a 4 terabyte hard drive the other day, and it's like, I have it like wrapped up in padding, and like it's, it's not going to be moved. Like, I'm so nervous about it. I'm getting like anxious thinking. I'm getting anxious about it just existing right there.
But it is a bummer, man. Especially like you were saying, like with the work it takes to download all these shows. You're like, okay, I've got the whole year of 97. Now I'm going to start working on 98. And it's like you get all this stuff compiled, and then you go to plug it in one day, and it's like just beeping at you, and you're like, well, shit. Now what am I going to do?
That's why cloud storage is so important.
I know. It really is. And I'm sure you've been, like we all have been in this situation before, where you're hanging out with someone and, they don't like Phish, or they've never heard of Phish, and we're all so passionate about it. We're like, oh yeah, no, check it out. Like you want to convince them so bad. So in the past, if you have, which I'm sure you have, but what would be the one song or the show or the jam that you would play to someone to try to get them on board, or that has never heard Phish?
My answer now would be a lot different than if you'd asked me this, 10 years ago.
Just throw them in the deep end.
Well, I used to be like really like kind of an asshole about it, like kind of snobby, like I didn't care if this jam was listener friendly. That's the jam I wanted to hear. And if we're in the car, you're going to listen to it and be quiet. Like you're going to, nowadays, I realize most people don't like Phish, and they don't, not even just Phish, but like, like a long jam, that's not most people's thing. And nowadays I understand that and respect it. Then it was like, I couldn't believe you didn't like this, So nowadays I would really kind of try to tailor it to the person, But, most of the time, if we're talking live Phish, I'd play something 97, 98. Funk. Everybody likes funk, So that's usually what I'd play. I'll play to somebody, especially, like my friends who are sort of like-minded but don't listen to Phish or don't care about Phish. That I know they're gonna like the funk. Now, if we're talking just like a fresh fish out of water, no pun intended.
That's good though.
I mean, I would play something really listener friendly, like studio sample in a jar or something.
Yeah.
Like, because I remember back in the day, that was one of the songs that I downloaded off Kaza or whatever, and everybody liked that song. Like all all categories, sorts, different friends of mine, girls and guys alike. That's a really listener friendly song.
Yeah.
So that would be my answer, my broad answer. Sample or something, if we're talking jams, something funky.
Yeah,
You
something
know.
funky. Yeah, 97. It's hard to go wrong in 97, because there's obviously some great exploring happening on the band's end, but there's also like a lot of really tight, not necessarily, type 2 jams. You're talking like a standard 8-minute whatever, and it's just some
Hmm.
solid funk. That's a good route to take. It
Yeah,
was
and
it,
everybody likes to dance, and that the funk's really easy to dance to.
yeah, you just get a
It's
little
and that's another thing I've kind of came around and learned at seeing Phish live is like that Providence Bowie. I'll listen to that. Just sitting still.
mhm.
And like really taking it in, loving it, cherishing it. And then I think about like if I was there at the show, I would probably just be standing there, and which me personally, I would still be loving it, but a lot of other people, they might get bored with it, especially seeing it live, just standing there listening to that crazy type 2 out there, but
Yeah,
if you're seeing the Denver Ghost live, you're going to be like getting down and dancing,
you'll be
so it's
getting
like
those steps in.
yeah, yeah. So I found that's, listening back, or showing somebody that doesn't know Phish, that's usually like the route to go. It's something that they would be dancing to live.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of live Phish, what would be what would be one Phish song that you're okay with never hearing again?
I knew you were going to ask this too. And again, I guess you can call it maturity or old age or something, but it's kind of evolved. There's a lot of aspects of Phish that I don't necessarily like a whole lot, and I used to be a lot more vocal about those things and kind of be a hater in some aspects. And
Hmm.
nowadays, I don't really do that. I don't really even think about it. But probably gonna catch heat for saying this, but almost any 3.0 song, really.
Nothing? Nothing from 3.0 like get you
No,
there?
I'm not saying literally everything, but generally speaking, that's my hater answer that I definitely would have answered without hesitation, years back. But
Uh-huh.
um, that the song "Rise, Come Together,"
Mhm.
I loathe that song. I
Is
hate
that
that
the
song.
name of the song?
Rise / Come Together.
Dude,
Yeah,
because I'm with you on the 3.0 thing. I don't hate them, but where I've gotten to, I don't know the names of the new songs. So like
same.
I know the song "Rise, Come Together," but I don't know the name of it. If someone played that and
Yeah.
was like, "What's the name of the song?" I'd be like, "I don't know."
Dude, that's the way I am for, like, you can play a snippet from any jam, just about any jam from the 90s or early 2000s, and I can spit out a date. I'm
Hmm.
so nerdy about it, but then when it comes to these newer 3.0 songs, I can't tell you the names of them. I mean, I see the names in the set list, I know the names, but when you play the song, I couldn't tell you, oh, that's this song.
Right.
Um, I just know they don't do a whole lot for me, really. I mean, there are certain songs like, for example, Light. The song itself, it's nothing crazy,
Hmm.
but it's a really good jam vehicle. There's a lot of good lights out there.
Yeah.
Shout out Berkeley 2010, one of my favorite 3.0 jams. Um, but yeah, Rise, Come Together, or The Line.
Oh yeah, no lie.
Those are the two songs that immediately come to mind when you ask me that question.
Yeah,
But
I think it was Leonard talking about the line too, and that's one that's like that came off of Wingsuit, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but one that tying this into the most recent New Year's show, if you want to call it a show, their stream. Did you watch it?
oh yeah, yeah, I was watching it along with you guys.
I was, I was, I just started cracking up whenever they played "Time Turns Elastic," and then like immediately got on Twitter, and everybody was like this is the gag, like this is the gag that they're doing on New on New Year's. Like they can play TTE without anyone like going to the bathroom or like hearing any booze or anything. I just thought it was
That
so funny.
that probably would have been the third song I would have mentioned if we would have expounded on that
Yeah.
question some more. But it's weird because, as you know, I got six time turns elastics in my first 15 shows in 2009. Six times.
So you've
And
seen your fair share
Tyler
of it.
too. Yeah. So it got to a point to where, I'd be like, and when I'd hear it start, like, damn it. Okay, well, let's go get a drink and go to the bathroom and do our thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that song reminds me of those days heavily,
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, for nostalgia purposes, the thing it triggers in my head, I kind of appreciate it for that. But the song itself, for seeing it live, I'm just like, God damn it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
which
And
I feel kind of bad for Trey too, because like that was a long song that he probably took a lot of time to write and compose and all that. And after 2009, that he stopped playing it, and I can't help but think it's got to be because of all the hate it's received. He's
yeah.
not going to shelve a long song that he worked hard on like that,
Yeah.
for any other reason. I can't think of another reason anyway.
Yeah. I
But
mean, and they definitely, I mean, they see like the stuff online, they're not just like completely oblivious to it. Like I I don't think that they get on there and read every comment and get on every message board, but they have an awareness, of what
oh yeah,
the fan
especially
base
especially Mike.
consensus is.
Mike's pretty interactive on social media,
Yeah.
but they're definitely aware of all that. I don't think they really give a shit. I don't think they
No.
care at
No.
all.
Mm-mm.
You know, even back in the day, that Trey said it himself. Like I'm paraphrasing, but he couldn't care less. It's
Mm-hmm.
what he wants to do, what he likes. But at the same time, I can't think of a better reason that he would have shelved something like that.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I will say though, with them playing it on New Year's, you could tell they rehearsed it because it
oh yeah,
was on
it was pretty
point.
tight. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As I was listening to it after I got over the shock of like, and like getting on Twitter and everything and like seeing everybody's responses to it, I was like actually listening and was like, oh, this isn't like they've got this. Like I just remember thinking
Mm-hmm.
like they've rehearsed this for sure. For I don't know when the last time they played it was, but it's
Yeah.
been a while.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Probably 2010, maybe 2011.
around that era.
And
Um,
I want to expound on that a little bit too, like
yeah.
especially seeing it live. Like it's not, I don't loathe that song. I don't hate that song. But when it comes to like seeing it at a show, another reason why it's kind of like, damn it, is because it's so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll take a 15-minute version of any short song, because there's a jam.
Mm-hmm.
But long composed songs, that takes up so much of a set list, that's just less time they can jam.
Yep.
It's like and I'm not saying I hate or dislike Fluffhead in the slightest. I love Fluffhead.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's a Fluffhead in the second set, that's when I'm kind of like, damn it, like
Yeah.
this could be a
Wasting 10
15-minute go.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, which, you know, uh, Divided Sky is one, but that they don't play that in the second set. That's in the first set, so that's kind of more okay. That's
Yeah.
which I love that song too. But they there have been several moments where they played Fluffhead in the second set, and it's like, damn,
Yeah.
So it's
Because
like that's why that's another reason why I kind of have bad feelings towards that song. But
yeah, any like really long composed song, as you said, like in the second set, you're like, okay, well, this is going to take 7 to 10 minutes to get out of just the composed section to get into, a possible jam. And it's just like,
mm-hmm.
okay, we're wasting this 10 minutes when we could be getting 10 minutes of something exploratory. But yeah,
Right.
I'm with you. I'm with you. As far as band members go, which one do you think you would best get along with? Like, which one would you want to like hang out with and like have beers with?
Short answer would be Fishman, just
Mm-hmm.
because he's funny, and I feel like he would keep a conversation going and making me laugh and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it would probably be Fishman. That's the easy answer. But then aside from Fishman, it would probably be Mike, just
Oh,
because
really?
he's so weird, but it's on a level of weirdness that I can kind of, like relate to or
Tap
understand, or
into.
you tap into, that I think is funny. Like
Hmm.
he's over the years, like on stage, when you know banter is happening. Mike, there's been a lot of instances where Mike will have like a really short answer to something that Trey says. And it's
Hmm.
just like one or two words, but it's so clever and like really funny in its own way. And it's just that's why I love Mike. I think Mike would be my answer
He's
aside from Fishman.
Mike is really, really dry. Like you were just talking about
Yeah,
the banter. It's like it's always just those one words or even just like a look. He's not as opposed
yeah,
to like Trey where he's like having fun, like you can hear him laughing and everything and he's being goofy, and then Mike's just like, yes.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah. And you like crack up at it because it's like so funny to you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Getting into wrapping it up, we're talking favorite memories from tour, and I will let you come up with your own. But one thing that I want to ask is, and this won't mean anything to people listening unless they are a part of the group chat or have heard this story in the past, but, and you'll have to remind me because I wasn't actually with you guys on this tour. I think it was you, Jackson, Tyler, maybe Toller. But you guys were on tour going to one show from the other, and someone put diesel in the gas tank of a non-diesel car. And I feel like everyone acts like they don't know who it was, don't know who it was, don't know this, don't know that. Oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And you don't have to say their name on here, or even if it was you. But do
No,
you?
we've established it's not me 100%. Like
Okay.
that was established because so I don't mean to cut you off or anything,
Yeah.
but
No.
I want to put this disclaimer, this caveat in there. Like everyone remembers it. I was pretty wookish in those days, like that's a whole different story. But
Hmm.
I remember, on that whole trip, that when we got gas that time, the time that diesel was put in there, I was bragging about how I weaseled my way out of having to pump gas the whole trip there and back. For some
And
reason,
everyone
it was,
remembers it.
and everyone remembers it because at the time when I said that, they were like, "You lazy wook ass," like giving me
Hmm.
shit for it. I was like, in the back seat laying down,
Yeah.
like I didn't pump gas this whole time. So like that was my get out of jail card, because it's like,
Hmm.
remember, and they were like, yeah. So I was eliminated from that. But anyway,
Has
what was your
anyone admitted it off text or off air that they're like, hey, yeah, it was me?
no? And they never will. But to be honest, I don't think any whoever did it, I don't think they know that they did it. You know what I mean? I don't think they're lying or
Yeah, that's a good
hiding it.
point.
I think they genuinely nobody knows who did it.
But taking it back to that, like, because now, however many years later, everyone's memory's fuzzy and everything like that. But in the moment, whenever you start takeoff driving and you realize something's wrong, whoever it was, they know that they were the last person to pump gas. That
That's
memory
true.
hasn't faded. Everyone else's has because it's so far away, but whoever did it, they know. And that's one of the only things, even though I wasn't there, like a deathbed thing, like I'm like any last thing, I'm just like, I just want to know who put diesel in the car. Someone shows
Yeah,
up and like, it was me.
I take back what I said. You're probably right. Whoever they might know because in the moment that had to have been, oh shit, that was me. Right.
Yeah.
But then again, we didn't find out that was the issue for like however long we were had to stay at the hotel outside of Cleveland.
Hmm.
Because it's not like we knew that night that it was diesel. We just
Hmm.
knew our car broke down and we had to take it to the shop. And we didn't find out that what the problem was until I don't know how long, at least 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Um, and even then, I'm not sure if Kyle got an answer as to what the issue was immediately. But so
So enough
I
time had
don't know.
passed to where whoever was guilty was able to be like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's just one of
So
those.
so guys from the Cleveland trip, if you're watching and listening to this, that's all I want out of you. Like before you die, I just want to know. I
I
think we all want to know. That's
I
the
want to know
deathbed
too.
thing.
Just come
Yeah.
clean. It's been
Yeah.
enough time. The statute of limitations is passed. You can come clean. Get it
Yeah.
off your chest.
Yeah.
So outside of that, any other like standout memories from tour or just like being at shows to where you're like, oh man, this is a good story?
Yes, one always sticks out, and I still think about it all the time. It's not necessarily a good story. It's just a really good memory, something that's like ingrained in me. Anytime I think
Mm-hmm.
about seeing Phish live, this is the moment that comes to my mind. It was Deer Creek '09, and I think, excuse me, later on into the first set, it started raining, and they kept playing, but then it started lightning pretty bad, and they postponed the second set, like we're going to take a longer set, see if the lightning passes or whatever, which there's some really cool pictures of this, on social media. It's a pretty popular picture of Deer Creek and then the lightning up above in the sky. It's crazy. I'll
Uh-huh.
send you the picture when we get done here.
All right.
But I remember we had time to even like go back out to the lot and to our cars and stuff like during set break. And the lightning finally gave up, and we went back into the venue and they started playing, but it was still raining, and not heavy or anything, just enough to where it wasn't annoying. You could still have fun and dance and stuff. It was actually
Sure.
kind of cool. But I remember it had gotten dark at that point, and it was still raining, but they played 2001, and they started playing that, and like the crowd loves that. That's a song you can dance to.
Yeah.
And I just remember that was a moment of like, God, I love this, like looking around, because it was dark, and the lights during 2001 are always really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it was raining, so when we were on the lawn, so when you look at the stage and you had the rain coming down with the lights, it was like, the lights were going through the rain and all that. And
Sure.
I just remember dancing and just looking at the stage and looking around, everybody just getting down,
Mm-hmm.
and it's raining just enough to where it's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm getting goosebumps
Yeah.
retreading this. But I just remember that's one that sticks out to me. I just remember that was a moment where I was like, this is so awesome. This is heaven.
Dude, and those are the moments that we all live for. Like that
Yeah.
moment where you kind of like snap out of, like being entranced by seeing Phish, and you take a minute to like look around and like really observe everything from, the weather to the lights to everyone else, that you're like this
Mm-hmm.
part of this collective, and it's like,
There's nothing else. You
yeah.
can't explain it. Yeah. And it's like in life in general, you can always usually sense like people's energy and stuff like that. So like when people talk about crowd energy, that's a real thing, and you can really feel it that almost at all times. So certainly the band feels it,
Oh yeah.
but that's one of those moments where it's, you can, the whole crowd was into it, because it seemed like everybody was dancing,
Mm-hmm.
because at other times, you can look around and most, some people are dancing, others are just standing there, and there's people
Talking.
talking. But
Mm-hmm.
at this moment in particular, it was everything was perfect,
Yeah.
and it's like that is what I love about this
Yeah.
band and the whole culture and everything.
I
And
know.
and it's some of those other moments too that stick out. It's like, we talk about all these heady jams and like
Mm-hmm.
stuff, like the really deep part of it. But then there's moments like Chicago. I don't remember if it was 2009 or 2010. I went to both those shows, um, but it was in the first set, just a sample in a jar. Just a normal song. It's a good song, but it's also, you're not freaking out when you hear it.
Right.
But I remember even Tyler, the crowd energy during this sample in a jar was crazy, but also at the same time, me and Leonard and Riggs and everyone else that was with us, like we were singing so loud and dancing, like, like that's not something we would usually do, especially during first set sample in broad
Yeah.
daylight. But it was like, for some reason, like we were all just so into it, and like, we don't sing super loud during songs and stuff, but this one we were just freaking out like a bunch of, like 3.0 kids that you see, freaking out over a 3.0 song they're hearing, and
Yeah.
it was just weird, it's just something that clicked, and that's another moment that sticks out. But
Those are those moments, man, where it it makes it all worth it. You forget about, you know, the cost of your ticket, or if you had a flat tire on the way there, or someone put diesel in the tank, that all that melts away. And it's just like, it's what I would imagine is like as close to heaven as you could get if you want to take it to like a spiritual realm. It's like,
Yeah.
that's what my heaven would be anyway. Just like a never ending moment like that. And it's just, it's what we're all chasing. It's beautiful.
It's yeah. And I love talking about it because, like I said, you know, the my friends, you included, you know, like it's been so many years. We've had all these conversations and talks about jams and moments and stuff. So like we're all aware of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I don't ever get to talk about it anymore because I don't meet new Phish fans in Oklahoma City, you know, down the street that I can,
Right.
So it's I love reliving these things and talking about them. I haven't got to talk about them in so long. So.
Yeah. And that's,
Great.
I mean, and that's really like the whole point of why I wanted to start this podcast. I was like, because I've been podcasting for, you know, 5-6 years at this point, and I'm like, okay, I like podcasting. I like talking shit all the time, but I also love Phish. Why don't I start a Phish podcast? I was like, this is going to be brilliant. And I get so much joy out of this, like reliving my moments and then also hearing other people relive their moments. And it's just, it's almost exciting. Like, I want there to be a tour right now to like, I'm jacked up to like go see the band, you know?
I was just thinking that like earlier, I was like, God, this is making me want to like, you know, go back to living at home and waiting tables so I can just get some Phish all the time.
So you can just pop off, whatever.
Another moment, one more thing to add to your moments question.
Yeah.
I want to get this out there. We at Festival 8 in Indio at the Coachella grounds, which we drove Sean Smith's grandma's big old, like it wasn't an Astro van, it was like the other version of the Astro van, you know, like the big vans like you could like stand up in. We drove that thing to California. Like, wow, there was 5 or 6 of us. I remember it cost like $700 in gas to get there and back. Yeah, it was something ridiculous. But
getting 5 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, it had like an old TV with like a VHS player in it and shit. And
that's awesome.
It was, yeah, that's one of my favorite road trip stories. But anyway, we were there and it was Halloween night. And I remember we were just, you know, it was during a set and we were dancing, hanging out, you know, at a show. And I remember it was Halloween night because most people had their costumes on. And Knox was with us. And she was like, huh, that guy's dressed up like Michael Caine. Like, that's so funny. Like, he nailed it, you know, because Caine always wears those big pants and like a little top hat looking thing. And she thought it was funny, but, you know, I never really paid attention to it or whatever, you know. She was like, oh, that guy's dressed like Michael Caine. And then 7-8 seconds later, she says, that is Michael Caine. And I looked, he was like 2 people to my right, standing there dancing. And I was like, oh my God, we've been dancing next to Michael Caine this entire set. Like, and I didn't want to, you know, bug him or whatever. We were at a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was definitely not going to do that. So I just kind of tapped him. It's like, what's up, Mike? You know, he's like, hey, what's up, man? You know, and like we went back to dancing and he did, you know, nobody around us was bugging him. I'm not sure if other people knew it was him or knew who he was, but we did, but we didn't mess with him. And I think he appreciated that because he stayed there the whole set.
That's awesome.
We watched the whole set dancing and stuff. He was like right next to our group. And
awesome,
that's another moment. Yeah, that's another moment that sticks out.
You saw Phish with Michael Caine. Wow, dude. Yeah, because a lot of people, you know, especially if you're a Chiefs fan, would have taken that moment to be like, and basically like ruined his experience. And then he would have been like,
oh, he would have walked off. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure he would have been nice and everything, but he would have definitely found a different spot. And that's cool that you guys like gave him, you just like acknowledged, just like, hey, I know who you are.
I was like, what's up, Mike? Yeah. I was like, what's up, man? Like,
that's
another
cool
thing too at Festival 8, Danny DeVito was there. I didn't see him or anything. I saw pictures after the fact. But
he was at Coventry too, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I know he was at Festival 8 too.
That's cool. Dude, that's someone I would ruin his time.
Fanboyed out. Yeah. He would have walked off.
Yeah. I'm not letting that moment slip. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I'm sorry. I know I'm running your time, but real quick,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can leave. Like, because I'm gonna keep bugging you if you stay here. Just let me know.
Wow. And he's like 4 foot tall.
Oh, he's so short. Like he's short. It's like I watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like I can quote every episode I can quote.
Yeah.
And so like everybody knows he's short, but when you really realize how short he is, it's kind of crazy.
You're like, oh my God, you're
yeah,
a Weedle guy.
yeah.
But dude, Blake, thank you so much for taking the time and hopping on the episode. I had a blast. I always have a blast with these things, and even though we haven't seen each other in a while, hopefully whenever Phish announces summer tour, there's a spot we can go. I know you were on the fence this past Dick's run. You were talking about coming up the last night or whatever, but
I almost came too because I was in the Panhandle, Oklahoma
you were
Panhandle,
close.
and we were like, "Dude, let's do it!" Like I think I don't remember who it was, but somebody had tickets for us. I was with Madison Musgrave's little brother, and she had actually I had bought tickets to that, or no, that was Deer Creek. Anyway, there were tickets there. Like you can buy these and come up, and we almost did it, but we didn't do it.
Yeah, life happens sometimes, but. I want to see you at a show, or even if I'm back home in Oklahoma visiting, meet up in Oklahoma City, hang out, talk Phish, listen to Phish.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This has been a lot of fun.
I was kind
of not nervous or hesitant or anything, but I was like, I wasn't sure how it was going to go or whatever, but this has been a lot of fun. And like I said, getting to rehash all these old memories and talk about jams, I haven't got to do that in so long, and it's really made my day. So.
It's fun, man. And as the podcast goes on, I'm sure we're gonna have some repeat guests, and you're gonna be one of those for sure because we've been on this journey about the same amount of time, and you can't just fit all of your Phish experiences into one episode, but. We'll have you on again.
Sit here for the rest of the day and talk about jams and stuff. So yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for being on. And if you are listening or watching and you want to be on, send me a email sttf.weareeverywhere@gmail.com or shoot me a DM on any of the socials. And we'll be back next week. Thanks again, Blake.
Thank you, Clay. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right, bye.